I want to talk about, while we're here today, a little bit more to talk about fashion and ask you each, what does Black style mean to you? I know that's a very broad, huge question, but for you, what does Black style specifically mean? Is it definable?
I think style in itself is about energy and personality and attitude. And, I don't like the idea of a box. I mean, like, we celebrate Black History Month, but it's to me, it's history.
Yeah.
It's not just about today and this month. It's about being liberated and being celebrated every day of your life. And for me, my style, Black style, white style,
Yeah.
It's relative. I mean, it's really about the spirit in you, what lives inside of you, and how you interpret fashion. Because fashion is mute without style. It's, when you look at a hanger, it doesn't have a name, but the person picking it up has everything that it's going to need to give it life. So that's what it means to me. It's life. It's living, and living out loud.
I love that.
I don't like to be mute.
We know. And we love that about you. We know. And they're not, we're just having a great conversation here. There are no right or wrong answers. It's all what speaks to you. So for you, do you like
well,
the
back
same way?
then it was all about wrecking the room when you came into the room.
Yeah. Oh, wrecking the room. Tweet that. Tweet
We used to travel in a clique. Well, you call it a posse now, but it was a clique.
Yeah.
And we'd all arrive at the same time and wreck the room.
Yeah.
And that was
How did you wreck the room? Like break that down. Wreck the room. What would you show? The way you
dressed and the way you came into the room. We all arrived together. It was like 15 people.
Really?
Yeah. All dressed in my clothes.
Right.
So,
And you all didn't plan kind of a theme for what you were wearing. Everybody would just be fabulous
no,
and
they
show
just
up.
came to my house and put on my clothes. Except for the dresses, of course.
Right.
For the dresses, but everything else, that's why I had to keep making clothes.
Yeah.
Because they take them and I never see them again.
But that meant that they were great.
Yeah.
That they were fabulous items.
And I find years later we're moving and where did you get all these things? I've been looking all over. And my friends had them.
Well, at least they held on to them.
Yeah.
Because they knew they would be worth something. All right, and Johnetta, what about you? How do you define Black style?
Well, actually, speaking to what Stephen and both June were saying, it's all about body language. It's culturally. I mean, we just can't help it. You can put this, everyone can put the same white dress on, but when you put it on a body with shape and with culture and richness and substance, then it just comes alive. And then the accessories, we're not afraid to change prints and change styles and add a little bit of flair. And then once you add that flair, it just illuminates beyond recognition. So Black style for us is exactly, it's who we are. It comes from the tribe.
It is.
It goes way back to the beginning of time, where Africa was the first continent. So it all comes from that.
Yeah. Does it bother you all when you see other groups getting credit for things that really got its root in Black culture, like Reid and things like that, when it has to do with style? Because there's a lot of style that comes from just it's urban style.
That's right.
That ends up on, it comes from the street.
That's right.
You see it in New York, and the next thing you know, it's on the pages of Vogue.
Yeah.
But it's not us in those photographs.
Well, they do say that imitation is the best form of flattery.
That's right.
But are you flattered? Or are you like,
I say claim it. We claim it.
Yes.
We claim it. We own it.
Yes.
It's a distraction if you think about, it's being celebrated.
Yes.
We know where it came from,
Yes.
and we can talk about where it came from. It's thought-provoking. It's a conversation, like you saw, sideburns on the runways of Paris this season. It's always a nod and throwback to urban and Black fashion. It's so exciting to me. It's so celebratory because we know exactly where it came from.
Yeah.
So it gives us life, even again, like you said, we wreck the room.
Right.
They're wrecking the runway with all the things that we kind of culturally and naturally we evoke. I think that's a great compliment. It doesn't make me sad at all.
smile with pride on the inside?
Yes, darling, forever.
What about you guys? Do you feel kind of the same? Does it rub you the wrong way? Or are you cool with it?
No, it doesn't rub me the wrong way at all, because without them, we wouldn't be as global as we are. Because, for instance, with African prints, they've been in Africa, they've never left Africa, but now that they're on the runway, you've got people like Teresa Newton, you've got all these top designers that are putting them on the runway and now otherwise expressing themselves in other cultures. So it's great for us, as long as people know where it came from. And even if they don't know, now they start to look. Their curiosity is piqued because they want to know what the history is.
Yeah.
And then they go even before that or beyond that and they express themselves even more, you know?
Yeah.
I mean, we absolutely love it and celebrate it.
Yeah.
We wouldn't be on the cover of Vogue otherwise.
You're right.
Yeah.
You're absolutely right. But it is interesting.
Yeah.
It is interesting. You know, I'll just say that. But let's talk about, before we really delve into and go back to the 70s, let's talk about, in the 60s and the 70s, we want to talk about both eras. Let's just talk about the fact that the 70s, that whole style is having a moment right now.
Yes, it is.
We just did a piece on the show that I do.
Keeps having a moment.
I know. What is it about the 70s?
It's classic. It's like a classic.
Yeah, why does this keep happening? And Stephen, you were designing, in the 70s. I mean, why does it keep happening?
Well, it was when fashion was changing into what it is today. I hated lining, so all I could think about was making things without linings in them.
Really?
Because I couldn't understand why you put a lining in a knit dress.
It just didn't make sense to you.
No, I was a sweater freak, so that was never lined, so I couldn't understand why they had lining and a woven lining inside of a knit. It just was mind-blowing to me, so
It's crazy.
I did everything I could to change that.
Well, what else influenced you? What influenced you when you were designing in the 70s? Since it wasn't mahogany. What was it, Stephen Burrows?
So it was Latin music, most of all. In high school, my friends and I fell in love with Latin music, and that's what made me start designing dresses for my dance partners in the Latin music.
African music, Caribbean.
Yeah.
I'm just saying. Proud on the inside.
And part of my ancestry is Trinidad and
Tegan.
Native American, Cherokee, and Jewish. So
Okay. Awesome.
blend all that together, and out came this colorful, happy, joyous look that I had.
Yeah.
So
That was a huge hit. That is a huge hit. It continues to be. I mean, you are celebrated in fashion.
well, thank you.
Right? Yeah. I mean, it ain't just me saying it. It is what it is. No, it is what it is. But let me ask the ladies here about, just kind of why you think 70s style has such a hold. Why it's had such staying power over the years.
I think women weren't afraid to be women back then. You think about everything that was going on, the celebration of curves, that bell bottom, that boom boom. It was like that, the go-go boom in the 60s. It was like we really celebrated our bodies back then. In a very tasteful, glamorous way.
Yeah, no lining helped you do that.
Fetal body or no fetal body. I live for a lining now.
That is so bad. I'm gonna think about you, Steve. Every time I put something on it, it has lining
I'm
in
like,
it.
oh, God forbid. But I think that was like something that really captivated me. The fact that, that it was okay. You could be in the poorest of neighborhoods,
Yeah.
but there was still something. I didn't grow up rich, but my mother was, that she had moments of rich. She was very glamorous.
Yeah.
And I didn't know where it was coming from, you know what I mean? But it's like, it's understanding glamour is like understanding how to be sexy.
Yeah.
It's not necessarily...
You can't do it.
It's not necessarily the garment, it's the soul, it's the spirit,
Yeah.
it's the confidence, right? It's how you walk, how you talk. And, I've used this antidote many times with my celebrity clients, female clients, like, what is sexy, what is glamour? Like, find it. And we'll put on clothes, piece after piece after piece, and then not until like, you sit back and you rest and you feel it, you emote. You
Yeah.
know when you put on something, you just feel so delicious,
Yeah.
right? That's the moment we all wait for as women. We put on our bra, we put on our panties, TMI, but we're
It is
grown.
what it is.
And we start to connect. And that to me is where glamour, the spawn of glamour is
Yeah.
born, from the spirit of a woman.
Bra, panties, lashes. In that order. Go ahead.
After 6, right?
Bra panties and lashes. Well, let's go to that because
Yes.
that's what happened in the 70s. Is a complete freedom explosion.
Yeah.
There were no bras.
Right.
You know, they allowed. That's
There were
when
no panties.
there were no
But there were lashes. But there were lashes.
I mean, that's when the skirts came up.
Yes.
That's when the midriffs came. That's when the boobs came out. You know, everything came out. You know, you had a cultural explosion. You had color explosion. You had print explosion. And because of such freedom, that's what designers are going back to constantly. It's all over the runway now. It's been all over the runway for decades before now. And it will continue to be so because it's about freedom. And that's what everyone wants. It's just to be free.
No, so true, so true. Isn't it fabulous that Diana Ross performed, what was it, last night? In Brooklyn? Did anybody go to the show?
No.
Oh, I wanted to go so bad. Yeah, the King Theater, right? It reopened in Brooklyn and she was the first act. I just think of her when I think of 70s. I want to dance about John Stevens. So what celebrities do you think had the strongest influence? We talked about the 70s having staying power from the 60s and the 70s. What celebrities do you think their influence then still affects fashion today? Like I think automatically of Diana Ross. I think Diane Carroll, James Brown.
I was
James
about to
Brown.
say with the men.
Yes.
You know, just that whole breath.
Yes, well, you have musical artists as well as actors, you know, because people looked at actors at that time. That's right after the civil rights movement, the 70s. So we looked at actors on film, and we're able to really celebrate our freedom through them. There's a word again, freedom. So that's why we have the Diane Carrolls and
The Marvin Gaye.
and the Marvin Gaye's, exactly. And then going beyond that, then you have the musical artists, you know, the Jimi Hendrix, you've got Muddy Waters in the 60s, and who were very calm and cool, the whole Motown.
Yeah.
Exactly. And once again, they celebrated, but they celebrated through their music, and then they wore it in such a cavalier way. They were so elegant.
Oh, Alex.
And music influenced the fashion of the time. It was the music.
How so?
It's just, we were all about the music and you're so close to it, it had to influence what you designed. I mean, it did for me.
Yeah, what were you listening? What do you listen to when you design? What were you listening to back in the day?
Mostly Motown, mostly the Philadelphia sound, the New York
Yeah.
sound, the Memphis sound, stuff.
Oh, wow.
It was great. Joe Cocker.
I bet your showroom was a great place to be.
Well, there was a club here called The Law in New York. Like Big Bomb. And we used to go there after the club.
And rent it.
After Alice Club on Saturday night and stay to Sunday morning.
Yes.
And we get all the new
That's a
music.
Thursday throwback right there.
They would get all the new music before anyone else heard it, and we would be privy to that. It was a great inspirational time. All that new music that came out, it helped us blend even the black music, the white music, it was great.
Oh, that sounds like a good time. He just paints a picture. I was in a moment right there. That sounds like a good time. So who do you think carries off the soul era, you know, from back then really well today? I mean, one name that comes to mind for me is Solange. I mean, would you all agree?
Yes.
Yeah, she's reincarnated.
Yeah.
She's so focused.
Yeah.
And she knows exactly, I mean, there's so many great point of references, and it's really nice to kind of see them being paid homage to, and she does it really well.
Is that something, and this is just not knowing and just trying to understand fashion and how celebrities really pull their looks together, is that something that she kind of evolved into on her own, you know, just kind of from her personality and her spirit, or is there a stylist involved in that?
I think initially she evolved on her own because she wanted to separate herself from Beyonce. You know, she wanted to make sure that she wasn't mimicking that look, that it wasn't being mistaken as a mimic. So she reached out and she reached and way down in her soul to find out who she was. And that's the importance of it all. It's like, who are you? You know, how people used to to come to me all the time, wow, how can you put all those things together? Because I would have 10 different prints on. How can you do that and get away with it? It's because it's who I am. I feel no sort of arresting to what other people say can go together. It's about what I say can go together, and that's who Solange is. She says, this is who I am. Love it or not, this is who I am.
Yeah. It's amazing. I think it's what comes from inside of her as well. Because some of the looks she has, I mean, I love every time I see her on the page.
Yes.
I love how brave she is, and she pulls it off.
Yes.
And I think if I put on that same thing, I would look crazy. You know, but I think it's like you were talking about the attitude.
Yes.
You know what I mean? It's a feeling that you have.
But for Solange, you know it's Solange. It's the lifestyle, you know, and it's the authenticity, the art. She's so authentic.
Yeah.
And I think that's when you can truly see my job over the years. And it's like as we design and build characters and images, whether it's in film or music and television, it's really important that the character is believable. So there's always, you know, it becomes, when you're really doing your job is when you really truly help that person to capture,
Yes.
you know, that's right.
Yes.
That true essence, that story is being told through their eyes, you know, with your assistance.
Love that. I did want to say to you all, I neglected to say it when we first came out here, we are going to take some questions from you guys. So start thinking about them. I don't know how that process is going to work. I don't know if I'm going to come to you with a microphone or you're going to write them down. I'll let you know. But think of some questions for our panelists. Yeah, you can tweet it. And there's the answer. There is the answer. I don't even have to say anything. You know what's going to happen. She walked out. So think of your questions, okay? Those of you who may have them, because we won't be able to answer all of the questions. So, you know, get your hand up early once we ask for them. Okay, now Stephen, I have to ask you about this moment, because I really want you to talk about this. About this fashion show in 1973 in Versailles. And people are like, you made news, made headlines, made waves. You know, you did this fashion show with all African-American models.
Now that's not true.
Okay, tell me the truth.
That's not true. You had to use the pool of girls that was bought to go with the whole project.
Did you want to use all African-American or what?
No.
Okay.
Because I've never used only African. It's everyone, because everyone's a customer. Every ethnicity.
Use your microphone.
So I didn't just use black girls, but most of my favorite girls were the black girls. So
had a lot
and
of them in
Halston
there?
loved black girls too. And he loved a lot of the girls I liked. And you had to be picked by 3 of the designers to be in the pool. And just happened all those girls got through.
Well, take us back to, how did this show come about for you?
Well, Eleanor Lambert, who was a big champion of American fashion, and she was a publicist to all the high people, the top people in the industry. She was on vacation with the guy who was doing the restoration of the Palace of Versailles, and they were trying to think of a way to incorporate the American and the French in some kind of event that would raise money to restore the Palace of Versailles. So they came up with this idea to have 5 Americans and 5 French put on a fashion show, a benefit fashion show, and that's how it happened. Yeah, they had to pick the 5, whoever it was, the 5 from each side, and I ended up in that group.
Yeah.
And said yes, I would love to do it.
And what did you decide to do with that opportunity?
You just had a segment where you had 20 minutes or 15 to 20 minutes to put on a fashion show. So you had to come up with what it was, the whole idea, and the music and everything, which we did. I did it to Who Is He and What Is He to You by Creative Source at the time. And my whole thing was about a train that got longer and longer and longer and longer until Pat Cleveland came out of the end in the longest train. And we stole the show.